There it is. We're back, baby. Yep. We were just talking about maybe in the future, version 2 of this podcast, we could be sponsored by a producer of carbonated waters.
Spicy.
Think about it. We wouldn't have to buy it anymore, probably. Might just get sent free spicy water to crack open.
Like, when I drink water, I don't want it to just be smooth.
You're already doing an ad right now.
I want to feel like I'm being stung in the mouth by 100 bees.
Wow. Well, we're back, and we're talking about a little more of the Radiant Citadel.
Because the whole thing now.
Yeah, I mean, not really. We're going to talk about a couple adventures that we liked. Just kind of summarize some other things that we noticed maybe, partially because it's definitely meeting or exceeding all of my expectations, I feel like.
That's cool for you because you haven't really been excited about a book.
It's true.
In a really long time.
Yeah. I mean, I was excited. Well, I still am excited about the new box set coming out. Pretty pumped for that. Early release at Target or whatever, so I can't get it from our friendly local game store, but I don't care because I want it immediately. But yeah, besides that, this was kind of the only other book that I've really been excited for probably since Candlekeep Mysteries. And so it's interesting, I guess, how this is kind of a similar book. Yeah. What about you, though?
I'm excited for every book that comes out, so... And I pretty much just read them all.
That's true. I feel like you actually read more of these books than I do by a long shot. Because I tend to, I don't know. I really want, if I really think I'm going to use something, I will read it cover to cover. But otherwise, I just do a little skimming until I find something like that. And if I don't find something like that, then I don't read it.
Yep. I just like to have all the knowledge in my head.
Yeah.
But yeah, the special edition cover that we got.
It's very special.
It's so pink. It's shimmery. There's animals on it.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Crystal animals.
Yeah, crystal animals. Because as we discussed in our last podcast about journeys through the Radiant Citadel, each founding civilization of the Radiant Citadel is represented by an animal made out of spirit gems.
Yeah.
So they show a couple of them on the special edition cover, which is pretty neat.
But I think, honestly, this cover, maybe it's just the one guy's style, Hydro 74 or 47, I don't remember which. But the guy a person who does most of the special edition covers, I don't usually like the look of them.
Except for the Theros one.
Well, yeah, but that's by a different person.
Oh, yes.
But I don't know. I don't love those cover designs. So I generally would feel like these alternate, special edition covers were less cool than the standard cover. But in this case, totally the opposite. And with Theros, totally the opposite as well. Theros still holds #1 book cover seat in my mind. But this is definitely up there. And I like it for a couple reasons, some of which you already described. Another one, and this is kind of strange, but the book does literally feel cool. It just has an interesting texture that is not just the regular glossy
it's
paper
silky.
cover.
I would describe it as silky.
I guess it's a little silky.
A little book-touching ASMR.
Can they? Oh, they're going to hear it. I don't know how it is. Okay. They're definitely hearing that leaf blower or whatever that is more than... Yeah, sorry if you can't hear that.
It's a really, really big bee, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. All right, that was stupid. That was really dumb. Okay. So, some things about this book. It's an anthology. So, it is like Candlekeep Mysteries. There's 13 adventures in here. It is also a setting book. As we discussed, the Radiant Citadel is its own setting, basically, but it does include these 13 kind of mini settings as well that are sort of seeds of new worlds that you could expand on.
I do feel like each one is in-depth enough. They provide a a full map of, I would describe it as a region
exactly.
of the civilization. They provide a map. There's points of interest that are not visited in the adventure in some of them, I think.
Yeah.
So, like, while they might be described in the gazetteer, which is at the end of each adventure, that it's kind of up to you to decide, like, what is really happening there.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that too. Each one of these micro settings also includes a little, like, one or two, I don't know, a couple pages, some of them, little gazetteer at the end, so you can have some other information to run other stuff in there if you want. But I was realizing, like, there are so many of these, and we talked about this in the last one. Kind of too many. Like, it's kind of a lot of settings. And I was originally thinking, okay, and wow, this is such, like, fertile ground now for Wizards of the Coast to create, like, a ton of campaign books based on all these different places, and they're all going to link back to Radiant Citadel, and that was, like, part of my evidence convincing myself that this could be, like, the new future main setting of D&D. But really, I was thinking, it's like, well, doing it this way was also kind of like a safe choice for them, because I feel like they could easily not, they could easily not expand on some of these or all of them or whatever. Like, maybe they'll probably do more with the Radiant Citadel because they've created it as a hub, but maybe, like, the one adventure in this book for Civilization A, B, or C, whatever, is, like, the last we'll ever see of that.
I think it would be neat if the Vecna theories are true. If the Radiant Citadel appeared in whatever final adventure they have for 5th edition as sort of a last bastion against Vecna, as he does whatever he does with those obelisks.
Yeah, like, I definitely think we're going to see Radiant Citadel again. Absolutely. But I'm saying, what do you think about all 13 of these civilizations in here?
I don't really think they're going to expand on those so much. I think they kind of want to leave them a little more vague so that the people who are using them can create more and build them up on their own.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Basically, I feel like they kind of went this safe route by not, because it would have been so easy, I don't know, fairly easy probably, to plant a bunch of these things in the Forgotten Realms. But instead it was like, no, here are these 13 regions. They do provide notes for if you want to put, Micro Civilization A in the Forgotten Realms or Eberron, or I think there's one other like major setting that they do, like, give you a little plug for. Like, there's kind of a bulleted list on each one of, like, how you could incorporate it as part of that setting. But yeah, I don't know. I was reading it and just thinking, like, wow, I was surprised how it is just a tiny region for each one, because I was really thinking it's like in the first chapter they are shown as if they're going to be these whole worlds, and then they're not that at all.
Each of these regions must be part of a whole world.
I get, yeah. I mean, that's how
that's something
work.
that I was, like, struggling with when I was reading it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, well, what else could I put in this world? Like, if you are going to be a person from one of these civilizations, like, you probably know about, like, other countries and other regions. Right. And a lot of them talk about, like, colonialism and invasions, like I know my favorite adventure, Orchids of the Invisible Mountain, tells of, in this land of Atagua, 500 years before the adventure takes place, there was an invading force, so, like, there were invaders that came from somewhere and took over this land, and then they dominated for several hundred years, and then there was, like, a war for independence, and now the people of that world are independent again.
Okay.
So the point is, other people live on these worlds.
Right. Because it does end up giving a little bit of, like, a Star Wars, every planet is a single, like,
every
city
planet is a whole culture.
Or biome.
Yeah.
And, like, you do get a little bit of that vibe from this book, based on the way everything's presented. Something else that I thought you might not like so I'm curious to hear your opinion on it, is I feel like I noticed, and maybe I'm blowing this up a little bit, but I feel like at least half of these adventures included a festival, which I believe we've talked about on the podcast before, is not a trope that you love leading into.
Here's the thing about festivals, though.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody uses the same, like, 3 mini games for them. There's, like, a strongman competition. I played in one where there was a dunk tank.
Oh.
That was kind
That is
of
truly festival carnival.
That was kind of different,
yeah.
but also I was playing a sea elf, so I could just breathe underwater, and it kind of defeated the purpose for me.
Yeah.
And like some kind of accuracy challenge, be it darts or archery. But the very first adventure in Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel is Salted Legacy.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the challenges in the market games were very unique and interesting, especially the Spicy Brothers Pepper Challenge.
Yeah, when I first read that, I kind of rolled my eyes, but then I was like, nah, this is actually pretty interesting.
I do love that they're just called the Spicy Brothers.
I did think that was cool too. And then, I think partially seeing that made me laugh, thinking about how we were going to talk about this book and the spicy water, haha. But yeah. So, but overall, yes. Initially, I had this realization, like, oh, here's another festival and another festival and another festival. But I think in this case, while it's kind of overused throughout the book, the reason it's used is because a festival is literally a display of like cultural values.
That's exactly it.
That is why it's like this. It's a celebratory way of showing what this kind of people is all about.
Yeah.
So,
and since this whole book, I think, is all about sharing like non-white cultures as adventure settings, like that really is like a very good way to do it.
Yeah. And that just reminded me of another point that I wanted to bring up, was like, I actually wish there was more commentary in this book. Or I should say any commentary in this book.
I would have liked to know more about like the actual root of a lot of these like legends and practices.
Yeah, like one thing from Candlekeep Mysteries at least was it actually lists the writer and I think like editor or something for each adventure in the book. And of course all these people are named in the credits, but I'm saying like right where the adventure starts in the book, it would just have their names so you could look up maybe like other things they've written or something.
I know that D&D Beyond actually does have an article where each author talks about their adventure and their setting. Okay. I didn't actually get a chance to sit down and read it, but I think I will now.
Yeah, like I wish that was in the book is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm glad it exists.
If there were sidebars for that stuff, I would have been very interested to read that.
Yeah, like just put that, after the gazetteer at the end of each one or something. Just like it could even be a little paragraph about like, here's the person who wrote it and here's what inspired them to write it. Yeah. Whether it be like that's their family heritage or like a legend from a culture like that they're attached to in some way or another. That would be interesting to hear about. Spicy water acting up?
There's a burp trapped in me. Can I talk about Orchids of the Invisible Mountain now?
Yeah, Grace really wants to talk about an adventure. Go for it.
I like this adventure, Orchids of the Invisible Mountain, because it has my 2 favorite extraplanar realms. It's got the Feywild and the Far Realm.
That's a neat mix. Yeah. Yeah. How did they put them together?
So basically, there's this big snake. And the snake gives people of the land of...
It doesn't matter. Okay. It'll be funnier if you recount it
gives people of the land these special dreams. Oh. But then when they were invaded by this other culture, country, whatever, the dreams stopped, and then in an effort to reestablish this connection between this land and the Feywild and the giant snake, this like society of priests broke down the barrier of the material plane in an effort to get to the Feywild. But instead of the Feywild, they get in contact with the Far Realm. Oops.
What is this, Stranger Things?
Yeah, and specifically an entity called the Drought Elder.
That's a cool name.
Yeah, it's cool as hell. It is a giant dead bug husk floating through space.
And it's like alive still,
and
like sentient?
Yeah, still sentient.
Nice. And so wait, is the big snake a Fey creature?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't have guessed that. That's cool. I don't think snake when I think Feywild.
Yeah, me neither, which is another reason why it's interesting.
Yeah.
Like, the adventurers are supposed to help this snake guy who's been poisoned by these Far Realm entities.
Is that the priest is also a snake guy?
No, the priesthood are called the Green Doctors.
Oh.
Out of the Silver Tapir Monastery.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm actually going to use like a adapted version of the adventure, which is for 14th level characters. So
yeah.
I really want to run it, but that's a pretty high level thing.
Well yeah, we can talk about that in a sec.
Because in my home game, I just had somebody die off a crazy just stroke of bad luck.
Sheesh, we could have made the whole episode about that.
We could have.
I didn't even think about that.
Fortunately, they're like doing a favor for someone who's powerful enough to help them resurrect her. But, you know, it's not just going to be as simple as this guy, like, snaps his fingers and brings her back to life.
Yeah.
I would never do something like that. Death still has to matter.
It's the Critical Destroyer talking here.
They have to, they're going to go on a little quest to get this snake guardian, or Snardian.
Oh, yeah, that was the name of it. Why couldn't we think of that? Yeah.
The Snardian to help them resurrect their friend. And, like, the way I'm going to run it, he's, like, not poisoned by the Far Realm. You know, I thought it was so neat.
Yeah.
Like, the whole thing was so neat that I wanted to put it in my game, too. So,
and
which is what this book is for. Just, like,
it's
plopping stuff into your game.
Why plug it in when you could plop it in?
Yeah,
that's what
I never plug. I always plop.
Yeah. And so the snake guy, Feywild snake,
the Snardian.
Feywild Snardian, is poisoned by the Far Realm.
Yep.
That's what you're saying? Okay, so like these priests tried to access the Feywild, but accidentally opened the Far Realm, and then the Far Realm leaked into the Feywild?
Basically, they just like made the veil between all planes thin.
Oh.
And these are just the two planes that like everything just bled together. Yeah, they smushed. They plopped, if you will.
Wow. Yeah, jeez.
Yeah.
Universal terminology.
Universal plopping.
Right. But speaking of plopping right in, the idea that, okay, this is a 14th level adventure. Who plays past level 10? Raise your hand.
I think
no one raises their hand that I can see. So therefore,
I think this adventure is easy enough to lower the DC of things.
Yeah, that's what I want to get at. Is like, I think every adventure, again, I skimmed them all. I didn't read any of them in their entirety yet. We just got this book yesterday. But every single one seemed easy to make the level whatever the heck you wanted. Because I guess with a one-shot, it's always going to be more flexible because there's not that much to change. It's honestly, it's very similar to the ones that I put up here on Patreon, where there's like one or two combat encounters there, and it's mostly more about like exploring an area and maybe interacting with some of the people.
Yeah, I do think they're very adaptable, partially because a lot of them just rely on the the players doing sleuth work.
Okay, and
because a lot of them involve mystery and investigation.
Yeah.
So if your players can put the pieces together, then you don't need a DC for investigation. If they can just figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it's really just, changing the hit points and like attack and damage on like a couple monsters.
Yeah.
Or maybe, not. Like, swapping out those monsters. Or not. That'd be fun too.
Or just making it very dangerous.
Yeah. So even if we don't run like all this stuff, again, I think it's a good source of inspiration for DMs and probably for players too, because you can get cool ideas for like making your characters more unique. Because again, the whole point of this is speaking to what I would call maybe the historic audience of D&D, which is largely like a white demographic with European ancestral roots, and saying like, hey, here's all these other crazy cool adventurous worlds and ideas and myths and stories and monsters and whatever that you could put in your games. And like, yeah, we've kind of cherry picked a few of these things over the last 50 years, but like now here they are front and center for you to explore. And I think it just does an amazing job of covering that. Like I said, the only thing I really want out of it is more details on the real links to those cultures.
Yeah, really makes it easier to include like non-white cultures in your Western medieval fantasy games.
Oh yeah, and another thing that I saw that I don't think this was in the first chapter when it was released, because it might technically be like right before the first chapter begins. It's just like a little section that just provides some clear, like, polite
guidelines.
Guidelines, yeah, for like playing, like how you describe a character without like accidentally, leaning into like stereotypes and stuff. Like a super simple thing that I'm totally going to try to start doing is just like make sure you're describing every character. And again, like without this becoming like overbearing, because obviously that could sound like a bird in the way I'm phrasing it. It's phrased much better in the book. But like describing all of your characters with a lot of detail rather than just describing, and I'm talking from a DM perspective, rather than just describing the points of an NPC that are different from basically like how you look, like whatever you consider the default, you're usually going to be inclined to describe the things that are different from that. So as long as you're describing like all your NPCs and you're describing them all with like the same, like covering the same few things for each of them, it's just like such a simple way to approach that without accidentally developing like bad habits about how you're presenting NPCs. So there were just some good notes like that.
That's a pitfall
really
that I've gotten stuck in. But then I kind of went the opposite way and like now don't really describe my NPCs that much, which isn't great either because then nobody knows what anybody looks like.
An hour into a session of DMing, any NPC that comes off the fly, I'm not going to be able to like Matt Mercer out a thorough description of them. But I do think it's a good skill to practice. So this was just like a good reminder of like, that's a cool thing to do while you're DMing, like enhancing your descriptions. I talk about describe enough in videos, so I don't have to mention it here. But like enhancing your descriptions, and it also has this awesome benefit of like you're not going to risk of offending anybody, basically. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay, but so what did you think about? Because this was kind of interesting to me from a skimming perspective. You read these more thoroughly. Maybe you'll notice things that I didn't. But it seemed to me like the adventures actually had very little, if anything, to do with the Radiant Citadel itself. Like it seemed like these 13 worlds were very much their own thing. 13 regions, I'll say. Very much their own thing. And like barely actually mentioned the Radiant Citadel.
Each one, I think, provided a connection to the Radiant Citadel. Like, each adventure, like, gave a couple of reasons why you would go there from the Radiant Citadel. But yeah, there's no, like, overarching thing, which I think it would be cool if they did an anthology like this. Yeah. Where there was just a thread that connected everything somehow. But yeah, they don't really do that.
Because one other thing, actually, that I heard in an interview with the co-lead writer was him saying that a bunch of the adventures do have little like Easter eggs and like callbacks to each other, but
he
even said it's like this is something you'll notice on your like second read through or like playing it, like if you're really looking closely. And it's like, okay, cool, but like if you put all these cool things in here, put them more at the forefront. Like, I don't know. I think that would be interesting.
Or like, are players going to notice them? Or is it just for the DM?
Like, would you only notice these things if you play? Yeah, it's definitely more of a DM thing. Because what? Are you actually going to run all 14 or whatever of these adventures with your group twice so that they can notice these things? Like, no. So, yeah, those subtle details, it would actually be cool if they were more like proud of showing some of that stuff off.
I think if this were to be the adventure format of the future, they could
Like
do
an
it.
anthology series?
Yeah, basically quote anthology series is where there is an overarching theme toward an end goal, a final adventure as part of the anthology.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I run my homebrew campaigns.
Totally. Yeah.
It's like you're doing a little first level thing, but there's a little thing there that you're going to realize later was extremely important.
Yeah, I definitely agree, because that is my sandy railroad approach of okay, there's 5 or 6 adventures here. I'll try to scale them based on the party's current level, and by the end of it, they're gonna face this thing. So it would be neat. I would totally go for that if this book could have been half the length, give me 6 adventures, and just make them more clearly linked, and the highest level one in there is sort of the capstone adventure of the whole thing.
It's all about the Snardian.
Yeah.
It's been the Snardian the whole time.
Yeah. That Snardian you met at the very beginning and thought he was your ally was actually
you thought he was just
a corrupted Snardian.
Snake, but he's actually a Snardian.
We need to write our own book. That's what the world needs.
I mean, I feel like my homebrew documents are 60 pages.
They're becoming book-length.
Each. Yeah. The bestiary is 54 pages and growing. Every time I think of something weird, just throw it in there.
We should probably need a podcast episode reviewing some of our own stuff sometime.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We should do, review our own homebrew. Or I let you read my bestiary.
Homebrew roasted. Oh. Yeah, that'd be fun. Something along those lines. Anyway, I think that's all I have to say about the Radiant Citadel now.
Okay.
We mostly filled. Oh, there's that burp. Finally escaped. Mostly
the
filled
overarching
2
thread that
podcast
connected
episodes.
This podcast.
Yeah, she's been holding that burp for 2 episodes. So I think we're good. Everybody, keep building. Even when Grace tells you to stop, keep
building.
doing it anyway. Nope, don't listen to her.
Stop doing it.
She doesn't. Nope.